How can the high priestess of Scientology go missing and no one knows where she is with any certainty for 13 years?
It's truly incredible. And I'm not sure why law enforcement isn't more interested in this situation. Now, I know where she is. I know, the top former Scientologists all know where she is. There's this small mountain compound that's very secretive. Most Scientologists know nothing about it.
Divorce is not uncommon within the church. Why banish her? Why not just divorce?
David Miscavige has a way of deciding that somebody is just an unperson and makes them disappear. And they just don't exist for him anymore. And he's done this to a number of different executives that he has banished in one way or another. And I think he just wanted her out of the way.
If Shelly Miscavige wanted to escape, could she?
This is a compound that's got high fencing with razor wire, lots of cameras. It's got towers, literally towers to keep eye on people. There are private investigators across the street at all times. So I think she might have a difficult time leaving if she wanted to. But again, she may not want to. She may be resigned to her fate. And Scientology's attorneys keep telling the press that she's okay. And so people always ask me, well, hasn't she just been killed or something? And I said, no, their attorneys wouldn't say that she's alive if she's not. Scientology's been very effective at keeping Shelly Miscavige out of sight. But hiding that she died, I don't think Scientology could do that. And that's why I think she's still alive. Scientology's dying in Australia. And one of the things Australia has that we don't in the United States is an accurate census. And I think the last census, there were like 2,000 Scientologists in the entire country. Australia was once a real stronghold of Scientology. Hubbard went to Melbourne in the 50s, and it really, he left behind a thriving organization. It's not thriving today, but they need to keep up the appearance with these buildings and facilities. And I bet they never have more than 15 or 20 people there. And so in order to look busy, they need to bring people in from other countries. And I heard somebody refer to it as a megachurch. It's as far from a megachurch as you can imagine.
If Scientology is dying in Australia, how is it still raking in so much money?
That's a good question, because I know they have been making money there. And I think they are bringing people in from other countries to do these services and charge them a lot of money. So everybody in Australia, New Zealand, and in Asia all have to go there. I still think it's a small number, but they're taking a lot of money from those people.
Yeah, I think it's something like $55 million last year.
I don't know. Why do people give them so much money? It's really, people donate incredible amounts of money.
In terms of their tax-free status, how would you describe that here in America, but also in Australia, that they enjoy this freedom from paying tax because of their so-called religious status?
That's the real benefit they get from tax exempt status, is it keeps law enforcement and the courts from taking a harder look at what they're doing.
If you were to ever listen to L. Ron Hubbard on a taped lecture, he was so charismatic, you listen to him and you think, this guy's got to be telling the truth. And that wasn't the case.
Very accomplished, very smart people have been involved in Scientology for years and years and years. When does the penny drop that this is wacko?
Sometimes never. Sometimes never. But look, realize this. As a Scientologist, you are encouraged to come and study Scientology for 2.5 hours a day, 5 days of the week. Now, let's say you've been in Scientology for 3 years. That's a hell of a lot of indoctrination. That's not just a couple times you're going and reading a book. I can tell you it's one of the more insidious traps that you can get into. And as a matter of fact, I would say most of the people that I knew in Scientology were pretty smart. But the way it's worked out is this. When you first get in Scientology, there are basic courses that you do, such as the communication course, which quite honestly when you get through with that course and start practicing those basics of communication in life, you are more capable. Now, because of that, that gives you a feeling of confidence that, hey, this is good stuff. So then maybe the next course would be how you could run a business, and you learn the basics of that. So you think, man, this is good stuff. So now you're gaining confidence, and maybe there's just several more that gains a little more confidence. Now, you may be introduced to some fact that you think, man, I don't know if I agree with this. Yeah, but everything so far has been good. I'll just accept it. You're trapped. Now you're starting to build up a series of beliefs that aren't true, but you're holding them to be true, and you're literally building up a small prison in your own mind.
And you're not just accepting it, you're paying for it.
Oh yeah, you're paying for it. I think the communication course was $50, which is, no big deal. And so as it goes on, maybe you're spending $200 for the next one. And then in those days, back in the 70s, if you spent maybe $5,000 or $6,000, you could get just about everything that the church had to offer on what they call the bridge. These days, that same thing may cost you $200,000 or $300,000.
If you're in Scientology, you need help. If you're in the Sea Organization, which is an employee of Scientology, you need to be extracted. But it's even physically, if you're not there, you're mentally in a prison. And so we both were brought into Scientology as children. So a lot of people ask, that why did you get into this crazy cult? We didn't ask to be part of it. We were brought into it. But we remained in because there are many repercussions. There's brainwashing that occurs where you believe you're doing amazing things for the world, and Scientologists and people in cults often believe that they're saving the world.
But how do they get away with it? How does this cult get away with calling itself a church?
Because they have tax exempt status? I guess the truth of the matter is you could say anything's a religion, right? You have a right to believe in what you want to believe. But I think because they have tax exempt status, that's how they have protected themselves from the authorities. I don't mean to upset everybody here in Australia, but you're not so above it all, because Australia still considers it a religion there as well.
But what I'm asking is, we've heard so many stories now over many years of what Scientology does to people, what it doesn't do in terms of charitable work and looking after people. So how can it be tax exempt in Australia? How can it be tax exempt in the United States?
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. You're asking a great question. Questions that we have continually asked and not received answers for.
And what is your ultimate ambition? What are you trying to do?
Their tax exemption should be revoked, which will open up the door to all of the crimes that they've committed. People will be freed. People will not be held at Scientology bases without access to the outside world. There's so many things bad, but ultimately would take away their power to hurt people and continue to do that.
We always see, Tara, and it's very true, we don't care what people think or believe, it's what they do. The abuses are what we are trying to stop, not the subject, not the right of someone to believe as they wish to believe. You can believe in the virgin birth, or there are planets out there that are, or spaceships watching, or Xenu and the body thetans of Scientology. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that people get hurt, and that abuses are carried out in the name of belief, and that those abuses are protected because they say this is our belief, and that's not right.
Because it's really quite embarrassing, isn't it? That governments in the United States and Australia do nothing about this.
I think it's shocking.
Yeah.